This is Madia-as Digdigan Buenaflor, extending an invitation to each and every one of you everywhere, as my way of commemorating the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. I will read and serialize my novel, The Blood of Three, starting on Tuesday, August 27, and continuing episodes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Follow the drama on my YouTube channel. May we forever exhale and inhale love and peace. The colonel strode to where they were, and the sight of his regiment made him stop midway. "Joe," was all he could utter. "Colonel Holt, thanks for the chance to fight," Joe whispered. "How did I do?" "You did well, Colonel Fern. We are proud of you." Joe was too weak to move, but he still managed to smile at his colonel and captain. His familiar naughty boyish grin, which had won Ernesto's friendship the first time they met, saddened Colonel Holt, who had held a soft spot in his heart for his loyal regiment. "Hold on, Joe," the colonel reassured him as Ernesto cuddled Joe's head. The silence between them was abruptly broken by the whizzing flares of the American fleet. The American and Filipino flags flying proudly at the Japanese stronghold with its silenced guns signaled the clearance for their passage. They were safe to proceed to the beaches of their destination. Joe looked up at Ernesto, the effort making him knit his brows. "Hey, what's that, Cap?" "The flares from General MacArthur's fleet. They're here, Joe. We've cleared the way for them. You did a good job." Joe grinned, but his stare was blank and devoid of light. "Do you hear me, Joe? The Americans are here. General MacArthur fulfilled his promise." Joe remained smiling, and a hint of light twinkled in his eyes. "You see, American fulfilled its promise. Tell my mother and father I'm not a coward. I haven't told them this, but I love them." And Joe closed his eyes. His face radiated the joy he felt before life left him. Ernesto kissed Joe's forehead. There were tears in his eyes. He had just lost a dear friend. He said a silent prayer and stood up beside Colonel Holt after taking off his tag. This he wanted to personally do, and Tommy understood. "He was a fine and brave boy," the colonel murmured. A couple of Japanese lifted Joe's body with Ernesto, while Ernesto and Colonel Holt proceeded to the gate of the garrison, where cheerful chaos was happening. Tommy followed Colonel Holt and captured the run, having combed the grounds for their fallen men. In his hands were a few dog tags. Their casualty was minimal. It could have been much worse, but just the same, every tag was a life he mourned. As Colonel Holt and Ernesto reached the sandbags, where the machine gun was still directed to the garrisons, they looked at each other. Ernesto turned the head of the man who was slammed against the machine gun, and what he saw stunned him. The man was Lieutenant Deason. He could hardly believe what appeared to be Lieutenant Deason's last attempt at heroism, something he never expected from him. "He died a hero, sir." It was all Ernesto managed to utter, and once again, Colonel Holt smiled and nodded at him in agreement. They were both mistaken, but they were both very much aware that many unexpected acts happen in times of crisis. People did things out of character. One could never be sure about what another would be capable of doing in times of war. Mr. Miura did it, and now so did Lieutenant Deason, each with his own personal reason. Just then, the hundreds of released civilians from the marketplace, led by Sergeant Cruz and his men, surged into the gate of the garrison. Jubilation and weeping mixed as the just released civilians turned into a hysterical mob, rejoicing and running toward their liberators, kissing their hands, their faces. The children jumped up to their fathers, wives reunited with their husbands. The guerrillas who have left their families were finally reunited. The young guerrillas cried like children as they reunited with their parents. Sergeant Leon's men escorted the weak and sick prisoners from the garrison stockade, but they all cheered and wept, rejoicing with the crowd. forgetting momentarily what they had gone through. Filipino and Japanese civilians were hugging and dancing wildly to the unceasing bombardment from the artillery of the American fleet. Their fuselage now directed at the beaches of their intended landing site. Colonel Holt was caught in the midst of the hysteria, his uniform torn and ripped as the exulting civilians gave him, and the guerrillas a wild reception and adoration accorded to war heroes. He was being pushed and pulled to every direction imaginable, like an inanimate object amidst grateful and rejoicing people. He allowed himself to be tugged and kissed and hugged. He stood in their midst, his smile drenched in tears, his arms outstretched as far as he could to shake hands and reach out to the hundreds of waving, quivering hands, some firm and hard, others gnarled and shaking. This boundless and sincere adulation, which accompanied victory, overwhelmed him. Yet he did not mind, not at all. Was this not what this campaign, this operation was all about? The fog in his eyes blurred the beautiful and pitiful sight of the survivors of the sufferings and the starvation and the diseases and this war. Also caught in the midst of the celebration was Tommy, crying like a child. He remembered how far he had come. He was once one of them. Like them, he survived, and who knows what his future would bring. The beautiful thought of home, of his own daughter Nida Gay, now overshadowed the jubilation around Colonel Holt. He longed for peace and quiet, and the days of long rest for his tired body. He just wanted to go home. That's all for today, to be continued on Tuesdays and Thursdays. May we all forever exhale and inhale love and peace. Thanks for being with me today. I hope you will inspire me with a like, share, and subscribe.